In January 2025, a new president entered the White House.
Donald Trump will be sworn into office
as the 47th president of the U.S. today.
Thousands of miles away in Ghana, Jijoami Senanu had no idea her career was about to change.
USAID headquarters in Washington, D.C. was closed today.
Assistance for the PEPFAR program has also been put on hold.
The United States government is not a charity.
He ended the left-wing scam known as USAID.
What's happening right now is dangerous for the United States and humanity.
After the swearing in of the new president of the United States of America.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
We were at work and started to receive certain directives.
The impact of the Trump administration's cuts to the U.S. Agency for International Development are being felt around the world.
One of the major ones that came in was a pause on all aid-funded projects. For most of the staff that were contract workers, they were all made to stop work immediately. Our future was in. Right from February, I started looking for jobs, and I can say from February to December, I sent out over 50 applications.
Wait, 50 applications in Ghana?
Yes. It has affected lives more than we think.
An outbreak of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo has been declared.
At least 220 people are believed to have died from the Ebola outbreak.
Global health experts are on high alert.
You wouldn't know how serious it is unless you're on the ground.
If today you met US President Donald Trump, what would you say to him about his decision? So, Jijo, you work for one of the international development organizations in the world. Then one day, thousands of miles away, a news broke that would change your career trajectory. Take me back. What happened on that day?
A few days after the swearing in of the new president of the United States of America, we were at work and started to receive some certain directives. One of the major ones that came in was a pause on all aid-funded projects. And I was in the health team, and all the projects that we were running, there was a pause on all of them. So in that case, they couldn't spend any money, they couldn't carry out any activities. And for most of the staff that were contract workers, they were all made to stop work immediately. Hearing that news for us who were full-time with the agency was a cause for alarm for us, because it means that with the speed at which things were happening, our future wasn't safe at all.
So wait, where exactly were you when the news broke?
I was in the office, our premises at Cantonments.
Okay, so what was the mood, the actual mood in the office on people's faces?
For some, it was shock. Some people were indifferent because right from the time Trump won the elections, people were expecting the worst. So there were rumors that some top colleagues who knew that things were going to go bad had already resigned. They didn't wait for the terrible things to happen. They knew what was going to come and they had already resigned.
So let's speak about you then. Did you believe it at first when you heard it?
Well, I believed it because it was coming right from the source. However, knowing America, the power and reputation that they possessed, I thought that the law could work to turn things around. But unfortunately, it didn't go as I expected.
I want you to take me to the exact time you sat down, you took it in and realized that this was really happening. What was the first thing that came to mind?
When we were receiving series of directives, some people were getting kicked out of the system, I started to think about my next step. So right from February, I started looking for jobs. And so I had a tracker, and I can say from February to December, I sent out over 50 applications.
Wait, 50 applications in Ghana?
in Ghana for remote jobs, yes, but most of them were in Ghana.
When you say remote jobs in Ghana, were you targeting roles which were remote specifically to Ghana?
Yes, I was targeting roles which were remote to EMEA, so that includes Ghana.
Oh, right. And why the choice of remote though?
Honestly, I was attracted to remote roles because of the flexibility it offers in terms of work-life balance. Seeing that I had another chance to move into a new role, I saw that as an option to consider.
Right. So let's speak about the uncertainty that it brought, right? A lot of people at work were facing uncertainty, and for you, the same. What did the uncertainty look like for you and your colleagues at work? What was ahead for you?
I would say that it was very disappointing because I was very young in the agency. I hadn't even hit 2 years when all of this started. So I was also thinking about my employment prospects because I didn't want a situation where I would try interviewing for jobs and then they would see that I hadn't lasted in the agency. People who weren't familiar with what was going on might presume that I was just hopping. I also noted that the agency that I work for is considered as one of the top paying agencies or organizations in the country. So people could automatically assume that they couldn't pay me. And then that was also going to highly affect my chances of landing a new job. So in terms of uncertainty, those were some of the problems that I faced. With colleagues, I know that some people were supporting other family members using that same money to help people suffering from diseases. They had personal debts and other things that they were taking care of. So as you can imagine, there was a lot of uncertainty in the air with the news that was going on.
For you, right? Were you ready to take a pay cut?
Honestly, I wasn't, but I had psyched myself for the worst. You know how like you've been enjoying something so good and all of a sudden you just have to it's like a fall from what do they call it, grace to grass. Yes, but knowing I was very familiar with the Ghanaian employment situation, I was ready for the worst.
So when you say the Ghanaian employment situation, what exactly do you mean by that?
Okay, so I know that the average salary of Ghanaians is not too good. So at least from my discussions with people, if you are earning at least 7,000 cedis, you are considered to be part of the percentage of Ghanaians that are doing quite well. Yeah, so in terms of that, and also the other perks that we enjoy, such as private health insurance, the leave days, and even the opportunities to work from home and all of that. The Ghanaian situation is not the best at all.
So judging by the fact that you were going to fall into the Ghanaian situation, but you lived in Ghana, how did that make you feel?
I would say that I feel like I have developed a tough skin over the years. By the grace of God, I've had over 5 years of work experience before I even moved to the international agency. So I had developed a tough skin and was very privy to the Ghanaian situation. So I was ready for anything that could come.
So I am going to ask about the hardest part of that period. But before we go into that, right, I want us to delve into careers being fragile. What are some of the lessons you learned from that particular situation?
So I would say that as a diligent worker who takes her work very seriously, I learned to just do what I'm supposed to do. Because imagine a situation where you are in quotes killing yourself for your job, and then in just one day you are sent home or you are asked to go home. You feel like you've wasted your time, especially if you are one that sacrifices your social life or your time with family, your time for religious activities to do work all the time. You feel like you've lost a big part of you because you have sacrificed that part of your life for work and now you are asked to go home. So the lesson I learned from this was that with the time I have to work, I should put in my best, but I shouldn't overdo it and I should make time for the things I love to do and for the people that I love.
So why a lot of people assume that some jobs are forever, they stay in the job and they are very comfortable? Why do you think people feel such?
Well, I think it is the security and the opportunities and the perks that come with the job. Because sometimes your basic salary in itself may not be as high as you want it to be. However, occupying a role may provide you with benefits such as travel opportunities, health insurance for you and your dependents and your spouse. You may also get like per diems when you travel, bonuses and all of that, and even training opportunities. So really, when you find yourself in a position like that and not knowing what the world out there holds for you, you are better off holding on to it than trying to look for something, because the grass may not always be green as you think on the other side. So that could account for the reason why people hold on to careers. Because I'll say that when I joined the agency, I met people that had been there for over 15 years, over 20 years. And it certainly showed that there was something good that they were enjoying there. And that was what kept them there for that long.
So what did you then learn from depending on one employer for your daily bread?
I would say that I learned to observe the circumstances. If it suits your current situation or where you want to be in the long term, you are better off staying there than to look elsewhere. Once again, it will depend on you as the individual, what you are looking for in life, where you want to be in future. If the current place does not serve you, then you have to do what you need to do to get to where you want to be.
Right. So would you say this whole situation changed your viewpoint about money and saving?
Yes, I'll certainly say that it really made me understand why the investment professionals preach about the need to have an emergency fund. Because in my case, I'll say that I ended my role in July and I got a new job in October. That is about 2 months apart, if I'm not mistaken. But then sometimes I imagine that what if I didn't get a job until a year after? Would I have been able to survive? So this situation taught me a lot about the need for an emergency fund to keep me going when the unexpected happens.
So when you say emergency fund, some people watching us might, can you explain what that is to our viewers?
So from what I know, an emergency fund ideally is 6 months worth your upkeep. So let's say for a month you spend 2,000 cedis on upkeep. Ideally, you should have 12,000 cedis set aside, which is 6 months of your 2,000 cedis.
Is that easy to do?
With discipline, I think that it is possible. Then again, investors advise that ideally we should be putting aside 20% of our income. So for 6 months, I feel that if, let's say, you start work and you've worked for 10 years and you are putting aside even 30% of your income, you should be able to afford that emergency fund.
Well,
So
you mentioned the key word.
With discipline.
Yeah, so the word is discipline, right? What does
Yes.
discipline mean to you?
In terms of finances or
Yes, in terms of
generally?
in terms of finances.
Okay, so personally, in terms of finances, discipline is me putting on my calendar that on the first Sunday of the month, I pay my tithe. On the first Monday of the month, I put aside my 20%. That's 20% by way of savings or investments. And then the rest I have to spend. But usually I don't even spend all before the next paycheck comes in. So in terms of discipline, that is what I do for finance.
But your people are saying Accra is hard. So how do people actually do it in Accra?
Sometimes I ask myself the same question. We don't know how we do it, but we just do it.
You just do
I
it.
can't answer. We just do it.
Is it safe to say that people in Accra are magicians?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to give you some numbers, right? Yao is earning 5,000 cedis. How would I be able to save from this 5,000 cedis, considering that I have rent, I have entertainment, I have food, I have transportation, and maybe the girls too will chop some of the money. So how do I save from a 5,000? How would you budget that?
Hey, with 5,000, you don't even have any business with the girls, so because how much should you give them and how much should you have them?
So
But
let's take the girls out, but
I'll-
budget the 5,000 for someone who lives in Accra.
okay, so for someone that lives in Accra with that 5,000, depending on where you live, for a salary like that, I imagine that your rent should be maybe between 600 to 1,000 cedis.
And
Yeah,
what does
so
that get you?
possibly a room or a single room. Yeah, you
Right.
might probably even be sharing the bathroom with others, but that can get you a single room. Or if you are lucky, a chamber and hall. But then that might be far from town and you end up spending a lot on transportation to your workplace. That's if it's in the capital
Right.
or in Accra. Yes. So you save, let's say, 800 cedis for rent, and then feeding will take about, it can take 1,200 to 1,500. That's if you are spending about 50 cedis a day. So I'm looking at 30 days. Yeah. So 800 times 1,500, we already have 2,300.
Yeah,
Yeah, a
plus,
Christian like
not
me.
times.
Yes, class. If you're a Christian like me who tithes and is big on 10%, then there's 500 CDs out.
Wait,
So
let's speak about Titan. 10% of your 5,000 is already about 500 CDs. Would you say
yeah.
Titan is something everyone must do, considering it's taking 10% of your whole salary?
Personally, I'll encourage it because I can testify to certain blessings that I have reaped from it. So I highly encourage it as a practice for Christians. And also, biblically, it's right to do it because not doing it is seen as robbing God. And no Christian wants to be seen as an armed robber or someone who is robbing God.
We are going to go into the conversation. We still have 500 plus 2,300, so we are 2,800. But recently, I saw a video, right? And in church, there was this woman who had retorted back to a pastor, basically saying that
Right.
they were talking about tithing. It brings a school of thought that says that give the money to the poor instead of giving it to the church. What is your opinion on that?
It's good to give to the poor, but I don't think it is right to give your tithe to the poor because tithing has its purpose in the house of the Lord. From what I know biblically, tithe is also used to pay maybe people who work in the house of the Lord.
Does that
to also
include the
supply
pastor?
their needs. Yeah, because he works in the house of the Lord. So if you are paying tithe, I don't think that you should necessarily be concerned about whose pocket is going into. It's a duty for you to do as a Christian. So once you are doing it, if you feel like it's not being used judiciously, it's not in your place to judge or to point out, especially in a public space like that.
So
Yeah.
whose place is it in then to be able to call it out?
Well, it's God's command for us to tithe. So if it's not being used judicially or for the purpose that tithing is being collected, then we leave it to God to judge.
Right. So I'll take you into the Bible, right? I think there was Hophni and Phinehas. They were taking money.
The
They were taking
sons of Eli.
Eli. Yeah, they were
Yeah.
taking money. They were taking the fattest part of the offerings that came, right? God
Yeah.
executed instant justice on them. But today, what do we see in Ghana and other parts of the world? Some religious leaders are chopping the money, but nothing is happening to them. Don't you think that is the reason why people think like how they think or people behave the way they do?
Yes, that is absolutely true. And I'm not in the place to judge people for behaving the way they do. They have their reasons for that. But I also think that if you know that you are a member of a particular church and that is happening, there are certain channels for you to hold your leaders accountable. I'm saying that because I am part of a church that is like an Orthodox church, and we have the avenues for that. So if you feel like you are part of a denomination that does not accommodate that and it's uncomfortable to you, I think that you can find another Bible believing church and move to because if you decide not to do your duty as a Christian, that's in terms of paying tithes or bringing offerings, just because you think that it's not being used judiciously, then I don't think you are also doing the right thing as a believer or a member of the kingdom.
Right. So let's land back into the corporate world. If I am in the corporate world, what signs should I not ignore when it comes to a pending layoff? Would there be any indications that would tell me that something is coming? Do you think there are signs?
Yeah, there may be some signs. So depending on the industry that you find yourself in, I feel like every professional should be abreast with the news related to the industry they find themselves in, because there may be certain economic or social indicators that could alarm you to let you know that there's an impending layoff. That's an example of something that you should not ignore. I feel like in the organization as well, you will notice a climate change. Maybe sometimes in the frequency with which management meets or in certain notices that go out, they all give off some signals of an impending layoff. So they are things that you shouldn't ignore. So that's why it's also important that in whatever position you find yourself in, you do not rest on your oars. You find ways by which you can improve yourself, so that in the event that something comes up or you begin to notice certain signals that show that there's an impending layoff, then because of the credentials you hold, then you can find your next step or the direction in which you want to go.
So then what skill sets becomes the most important when everything changes, when there's a layoff? What kind of skill sets should one carry from the corporate world?
I think that generally everyone should be adaptable, because the rate at which things change could be very quick. So if you are the kind of person that is very resistant to change, then that could be a very difficult time for you, because it will be hard for you to move maybe into an industry that you've never been in, or to move into a culture that is different from where you've been all your life. So that is one important skill that every professional should carry in the face of change.
Right. So I am taking you back to the US, where the news came from. News was rife that there was misappropriation of funds, and that is why the agency was being terminated. With you being on the ground, would you say, not about your employers directly, but would you say that funds were being used for their purpose on the ground?
Yes, from where I sit, I would say that there was no misappropriation, because even before you could get any funds, the processes that you had to go through, the kind of justification that you had to give before any funds were released, everybody can bear witness that maybe it was happening at the top, but from where I sit, I cannot speak to that.
If today you met US President Donald Trump, what would you say to him about his decision?
That's a hard question. I would tell him that I don't think it was thought through, especially because of the way everything happened and the agency was taken down abruptly. I will ask that there could have been proper investigations into things before projects were closed down. And I will also find out why they didn't go through due processes to bring down the agency, and why a powerful agency of over 60 years was just destroyed in a matter of months.
I like your accent in a matter. But then let's speak about the end users as well, who may be the most affected. Some of the projects USAID was doing, right? I think it would cater for maybe kids, pregnant women, the impoverished people. How was it wrapped up with them? Or how was even the news communicated to them to let them know that this type of funding or this type of support wasn't coming to you guys again?
I'm sure they just like us heard everything on the airways, because as far as I'm concerned, when the projects were paused, we were even discouraged from communicating with partners and beneficiaries. So just like everyone else, they were also taken aback, and all the information they were getting is right from the source, from the news channels, just as we were. And I also say that for some of the things, people did not immediately see the effects. But currently, even with the Ebola happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I recently read an article that said that it's not being contained because the USAID people that were working in disease control, they no longer exist. And that's how come with the new strain, a vaccine hasn't been found for it. So it has affected lives more than we think.
Right.
Yeah.
So the ramifications of it then is to the whole world, basically.
Yes, it is. And I feel like you wouldn't know how serious it is unless you're on the ground or you are close to people who are benefiting from it.
We are going to wrap up on this segment soon about USA, then we speak about Jijo herself. How did your family react to the news when you came and told them this happened? Don't tell me they heard it on TV or radio first. Tell me about how they reacted to it.
I'll say that they were sad. It felt like a second form of affliction, really, especially because my parents have gone through something similar in the past. So it was very disappointing. And I think that they were even more worried than I was, which was making it more difficult for me. I felt that it was my problem to deal with, but then they didn't allow me to go through it alone.
Right. Supportive family you have right there. But your parents
Yeah.
went through it. They had kids. You don't have kids right now. So when your parents went through some layoffs, how did that affect your livelihood as a child?
Honestly, I didn't really feel it in the initial stages because I was going to school normally. I couldn't have everything that I wanted, but I'll say that my life really didn't change. I was still in a private school. It's not that the level or quality of education that I was receiving had to go down. So I'll say that even though I couldn't have all that I wanted, I didn't really feel a difference in the quality of my life.
Imagine maybe you guys didn't have a permanent accommodation as of that time, or even you, if let's say you've been laid off and you don't have accommodation in Accra, what do you think would happen to you?
Honestly, maybe I would have to fall on family members or the chunk of my
Go back to the
severance will
village.
just go into accommodation. Yes.
Why are you not going back to your village?
I haven't even been there before.
So for all Accra-born children or big city children, if this happens to you, you have nowhere to go. You can't go back to the village. So Jijo is saying to save for rainy days, basically. But Jijo, let's go back before USAID. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Accra, so I had my primary education in Sakumono, and then I moved to Achimota School, and then I continued at the University of Ghana. So I've been in Accra all my life.
Let's speak about Achimota School then. What are some of your fondest memories of Achimota School?
I always say that I made most of my lifelong friends in Achimota School because even when I moved into university, most of the people that I still kept as friends are friends that I made from Achimota School. Yeah, so from my house and from my class, I made lifelong friendships that I'm still in touch with today.
What do you think kept the friendship going? Because I know people from senior high school whose friendship just went like that. Poof. So what kept you guys going?
I think that it was just the bond, being there for each other, the shared pride of the school that we went to, and also I'll just say love for each other. Yeah, that is what kept the
Right. So
friendship
let's speak
going.
about the pride of Achimota. Achimota people are always talking about Achimota. Is it because of golf course? Or is because of your dining hall? What is it about Achimota that all of you always Motown? You Akora. You people don't let us. What is it about Achimota? Tell me today.
Well, I'll just say that there's this school spirit that is cultivated in everybody that attends the school. Because right from the first week where we have orientation, they bring Akores, those are like the old students, to speak to you. They share their experiences, where they were in terms of like the school as of the time they were students and where they are now. And I don't know about others, but to me, I just think that it ignites some sense of pride and wanting to do more, to give back, to just be part of such a popular, loved community. Yeah, that's it.
Right. So let's just move from there. Kudos to Achimota, old students, current students who are watching. But let's speak about the University of Ghana. What did you study at the University of Ghana?
So in the University of Ghana, I was offered economics, geography, and mathematics, but I ended up majoring in economics.
Why did you drop mathematics and geography?
Mathematics, I'll say it was hard and it was taking all my time. When all the other humanities students were just going for, so usually maybe you do about 3 or 2 courses. So even in level 100, maybe you do 1 course per subject, and then the University of Ghana required courses, making it 5. Mathematics students were doing 2. We were attending classes and tutorials about 6 times a week. In fact, it was difficult already, and it was stressful and not allowing us to enjoy university as we were looking forward.
So, with mathematics being difficult, when you say it's difficult, is it not the same as the math that you studied, the math that you studied in high school?
So yes, I agree. I studied E-maths, I studied core maths. Every E-maths student will tell you that in secondary school we did calculus for like the whole term. And then you come to university and some of the things that you use the whole term to learn, in 1 week, we finish the topic. That's how serious it is. So it's not easy. University mathematics is not easy at all. And I salute everybody that move forward with it or majored and combined it with other subjects, because it wasn't easy at all.
You can salute them, but we are coming back to that. When you say that a whole term's, let's say calculus, you studied that in Achimota school, maybe Form 2 for a whole term, but at the university level, you are supposed to finish that topic in 1 week. What was going through your mind when you first realized that this teacher wrote this on the board and in 1 week we finished it?
Honestly, I'll say it was fear.
Fear.
Maybe that
And why
was
is that?
also part, because even with the secondary school one, I'll say that it took me a lot of practice and a lot of time to get a hang of it. Now coming to the university and seeing that certain topics that we covered for the whole term were just being treated in a week, I think there was this fear that I was never going to make it, because when I compare the time and effort it took for me to be able to make it in the secondary school, and now, mind you, I wasn't doing only mathematics. I had other courses that I was doing too. I think that fear just gripped me and it affected the way I approached it.
Right. So let's speak about lessons from the University of Ghana. 4 years at the University of Ghana. You maybe got boyfriends, you maybe made friends, you maybe had traveled abroad, maybe you bought a car. But what are some of the lessons you picked from life at the University of Ghana?
I'll say that one of the things that I picked is that what you study or the area you major in may not necessarily be what you are going to end up doing after school.
Right.
Yes, I'll use myself as an example. Because of my economic and mathematics background, everybody around me thought that I was going to go into banking, investment, but then I'm doing something totally different from what I studied. And I still get to apply most of the things that I studied academically in the area I currently find myself in. And I'll say that that's one big advantage of the liberal arts or the humanities. It doesn't limit you. You end up covering a lot that you can apply in diverse areas of life. So that is one big lesson, that you may study something and end up in a whole different area. And there's always room for you to learn something new.
Right. So if someone stood by the University of Ghana, looked at the sociology department, political science department, the School of Performing Arts, physics department, any department, right, and said, these people, they'll finish school and it wouldn't even find work to do, what would you say to them?
I would tell them never to underestimate any program, because even aside what you learn in those particular programs, you remember that you take the required courses. Those required courses are not actually related to what you are doing. I'll use myself as an example. In addition to my economics, geography, and mathematics, for a semester, I studied chemistry. Yeah, so who knows if maybe I want to do some soap right now, I have some knowledge of the chemical bonding through the chemistry I studied. Because apart from that one semester of chemistry, the last time I studied chemistry was core chemistry in senior high school. So I'll say that no course should be underrated. Every program has its use.
Right. But chemistry, did you take that as a university required course?
Yes, I did, because
With
under
all
science and
the-
technology,
Right, okay.
I would say that, you know how University of Ghana works. Once they open the portal, everybody is waiting for the easiest. So in my time, food and nutrition was supposed to be the easiest. And so I was online waiting to register for food and nutrition. And now I was left to chemistry and physics.
Wow. So you had to pick one of them, and you
I had
definitely
to pick one of
wasn't
them.
taking physics.
I wasn't about to add physics to the mathematics and economics.
So then let's speak to the University of Ghana, then the authorities at the University of Ghana, specifically the academic directorate or even the vice chancellor. If you had the opportunity to give them feedback in terms of the UGRCs or even how we chose our courses back at the university, what would you say to them?
I would tell them that there should be more slots, because I think that during our time, the slots were very limited, and that was why people were just left with courses that they did not like. I know some people who forwent the UGRCs in particular semesters because what they wanted wasn't available. But I think that if there's opportunity for maybe 2 food and nutrition classes, 2 chemistry classes, so that people can actually get the chance to do what they want regardless. Because in my case, I'll say that I was pushed into chemistry.
With no choice.
Exactly. So
Right.
I think that there should be more opportunities in terms of the UGRCs. And also, students should be involved in crafting the course, in deciding on the courses to offer.
Why?
I think that there should be some student inputs, because at the end of the day, they are the ones that is being prepared for. So imagine most of the students are interested in appropriate technology, food and nutrition, or some other
AI.
forms of sciences. Exactly. But here we are still doing certain courses that they can't really apply in their daily life. It doesn't serve them. So it's just seen as something that I have to just make the C and be over with it. But if they are involved in it, then truly something that is specific to their needs or that is useful to their daily lives could be developed for them to study.
Right. So I'm going to circle back to USAID. You've been laid off, right? You are looking for work. You applied to about 50 opportunities. How many of those jobs did you actually land an interview for?
So I'll say that I landed 3 interviews and then I got 2 offers.
Right. So what made you stand out for you to even land 3 interviews in the first place?
I would say that I met the basic qualifications required for the jobs. That was one thing. And to get to the interview, for most of them, I did some practical tests. Yeah, so those were some of the areas that got me the interviews. So I actually got 5 interviews, yeah, and 2 offers.
So with the practical tests, what does a typical practical test look like?
Depending on the area, so I work in projects related to health and education. One of the recent tests I did, it was multiple choice questions, about 70 multiple choice questions within the space of 1 hour. So you see that you are very short of time because it's less than 1 minute. Yes, and they are asking you questions related to processes in handling projects.
Right.
Yeah, so that's one form it will take. Another form of test that I've come across is you are typically given a scenario. So you are asked to respond to that scenario. So maybe you have an event related to a project that you are working on. So you have to design the script for the event, maybe a webinar, for instance. So you're basically going to design the script for the moderator, questions that they can ask the panelists, and certain cues that they should note during the event. So you are basically designing this brief for that session.
You got 2 offers. What was the deciding factor for you to pick the job you were going to move forward with? Was it money?
I would say it wasn't money at all. For these 2 offers, I would say that the culture of the organization highly influenced my choice, because comparing how I was treated during the recruitment process, I felt that it gave a big signal of how working at the particular place was going to be like. So I chose one over the other, mainly because of the experience I had throughout the recruitment process.
Right. So when you say culture, is it they wearing Friday wear to work on Friday, or they playing table tennis, or what is culture? Work culture?
I would say that work culture is the way of life of an organization, so how the employees behave. So in this case, the people that I met throughout the process, so during the interviews, how they related to me, the kind of comments passed, those are the things that I looked at as a deciding factor on which one to pick.
Right. So let's move to our last segment. Then we can say bye-bye to Chijo. You've been in the corporate world for some time. In the corporate world, you have to manage working with people and building relationships. How have you navigated building work relationships from the time you started work till now?
I would say that I do a lot of observation to see how people around me will like to be treated. I do not subscribe to what people say about not making friends at work, because truly we spend a big part of our lives at work. So it's important to make some friends that you can fall on. So I'll say that I observe the way people behave. If I see that we have common interests, we hold common values, it's easier for me to work with them and even to go beyond a working relationship, but to cultivate a friendship. So personally, that's what I usually do. When I see that we don't have much in common, we do not have same values in terms of discipline, dedication to work, and all of that, I will just maintain a cordial professional relationship, nothing beyond that.
How would a bad work colleague influence your work culture then, or your work ethic then?
I will not say that I'm easy to influence. So if there's a bad worker or a bad colleague around me, I will try to speak to them to straighten up, to do what's right. But if they do not, usually I will just do my part.
Right.
Yeah.
So my last but one question. If Jijo at 21 or 22 graduating from the University of Ghana is looking at the Jijo who has spent some time in the work world now and is managing her own life, what would Jijo at 22 say to Jijo now?
Say that Jijo at 22 will be proud of the current Jijo. Things might not have gone as you expected, but you still managed to pull through. Yeah, so don't be too hard on yourself. You are doing well, and the best is yet to come.
So what if a young woman is watching us today? She feels like her plans have fallen through. For example, Accra has been flooding. Her certificate has been washed away. Her business has been washed away. Or something major in her life, her livelihood is gone because of the flooding in Accra, or anything that can happen, like a layoff. What would you say to a young woman or a young man watching us today?
Young lady, please do not give up on yourself. Just sit down, analyze where you currently are, note your strengths and what you can make from them, and pick yourself up and keep going. Try to keep good company, network with the right people, people that can point you in the right direction, and take advice that will help better your life.
Nothing to the young man, or it's for both sexes?
You asked for young lady. It definitely applies to a young man as well. You should do some self introspection, see what your current strengths are and what you can make do of them and speak to people who can help you. But don't give up.
Right. So, Gijo, it's been a pleasure speaking to you today on Life After School.
Thank you for having me.
You have given us a lot of nuggets as to how to navigate our life when it comes to unexpected situations. So, until another episode of Life After School, my name is Yawaji.